Hi there, it's Eliana Gilad, the founder of Voices of Eden, the Ancient Wisdom and Healing Music Institute, the author of Miriam's Secret, Revealing the Ancient Wisdom of Feminine Leadership, and today's Facebook Live broadcast, I wanted to share the secrets that I have learned and experienced while living 10 days, well, actually 11, between 10 and 11 days in utter silence. Through last weekend, I sat in the Ganya Bet, which is in the Jezreel, no, it's in the Upper Galilee, on the Sea of Galilee, right next to the Jordan River, bordering the Jordan River, and on a very ancient site. I'm atop of Abu Dia, which is where ancient mummies, you can see them in the Israel Museum. Actually, quite astounding when you walk into the museum. See these gigantic, huge mummies, but very different than Egyptian mummies. They're out of clay. And this is where this Vipassana silent meditation retreat happens. So I didn't have any idea what to expect. None. I just knew I wanted to sit in silence. And in coming back to Israel, I haven't been here for a while since I took the last group about a year and a half ago. And I wanted to just sit in silence and have time to regroup and to feel the land here and to see what's going on with me after 4 years of living with my dear mother, and I've left there. And then coming back to Israel to my home and Healing Music Center, which are still rented out. It's a real space of change right now. Very exciting. So I knew that I wanted to be in that silence, but I had no idea what living in silence would be like. Have you ever lived in silence? Have you ever wanted to? And why? I just expressed my why. I'm going to first share what it was like beforehand. So when we got there, what I was expecting, I didn't expect a lot, but I was just expecting regrouping, and then in the evening, not speaking, and then retiring and writing down my thoughts. But no, when you get there, you sign a sheet that says you're committing to precepts, amongst them no, of course, no speaking, and then no human contact, meaning no physical contact, no eye contact, and no writing. No writing! That was like one of the big things I was looking for, but since, I could have not, could have signed it, and then, nobody would have come into my room and seen, but I figured, if one of the secrets is that nobody would have known. But I figured if I'm really wanting to go to my next level, then let me honor where I am. Let me honor what is being asked of me. This is being offered to me, so let me agree. And I figured, if I really have these, oh my God, but I'll know and then I'll forget. If I have one of those and I really need to write it down, well, I can, I'll always take the journal out and write. But what happened was that the more you go, it's like the deeper you go, and it's just an amazing experience. The second thing is that I did not expect to see so many people. There were 80 people there, half men and half women. That was another astounding thing, is that 40 of them were men. And there's a mechitza. So the center is beautiful, and I made a blog post. You could go to voicesofeden.com/blog, because I posted pictures on there. Maybe I'll post some more underneath. Really quite a beautiful place, and The room was beautiful, very simple, but just so quiet. The energy so good. And overlooking palm trees, date palm groves, and bougainvillea, just beautiful. But the men and the women are divided, so you don't see any men, except when you go into the meditation hall. The women are sitting on one side and the men are sitting on the other side, and there are two teachers. They're a couple, and at points they will speak very, very softly, not to teach something, because the teaching is actually in silence. You're learning by focusing within, which is vipassana practice. When you eat, there were meals, breakfast and lunch, and no dinner. At 5 o'clock there was fruit offered. So at one point in the last day, you come out and the vow of silence is broken. That's a very interesting experience in and of itself. And towards that last day is when I started noticing, oh, there are actually men in this room. So you get so focused inside of yourself, within, and even in the eating, we had separate spaces. There was half the center, one huge kitchen in the back, but two sides of the dining room, and there are partitions, so you don't see the other sex at all. And you're not having eye contact even with the women. So when you go to eat your meal, it's an interesting experience, and it's another thing that I learned, how much we depend upon food. At the beginning, it was like really exciting to go to the meal because otherwise you're sitting in silence and meditation. How long can you sit? Our program is that the gong wakes you up at 4 a.m. and then at 4:30 you meditate in the meditation hall or in your room until 6:30 a.m., at which time the gong, you hear the gong again and you go to breakfast until 8 a.m. And then at 8 a.m. is the first group meditation, group sitting, and that goes for 1 hour. And then after that, from 9 till 11, you continue. There's like a lesson given. That's where the teachers check in with you. How are you doing? And you get like the next level of, inner meditation. And then until 11, you either go back to your room and meditate, or you stay in the meditation hall and meditate. And then at 11 is lunch. And then there's break until 1 p.m. And then from 1 to 2:30, you meditate in your room or you meditate in the hall. And at the second group sitting is at 2:30 to 3:30. And then, you're furthering and deepening your day's practice, whatever the particular lesson is of that particular day. And 3:30 to 5, you go back to your room or you stay in the meditation hall and meditate more. And then at 5, there's the tea break with fruit. And then at 6 is the third group sitting. And at 7, there's a discourse. And at 9 o'clock, you go to sleep. So that was the day. And so you can imagine the food, it's like, oh, yeah, something to do. But what happened is during the week with all that fruit, my stomach, and a lot, imagine you're sitting there and just really focusing inside. You're not looking at other people. So you kind of meet up with your demons. And all of this, the teacher calls it like spiritual surgery. And a lot comes up, and while that was coming up and eating fruit, my stomach got very, very raw, to the point of that I really didn't want to eat, and that astounded me. Like, food became less important. For 2 days I remember just eating toast and butter. And Mike was like, toast and butter? You're trying to lose weight. What the mind and the ego goes through is really, really amazing. Um, so that was during. And have you ever sat in silence? Another secret, and if you have, I'm wondering, what was it like for you? Was it difficult, or what was the biggest challenge for you? What would break your silence? I found that for me the easiest part was actually not talking, and I was really quite surprised to realize how much time I actually have spent my adult life in silence, particularly living in Israel, which is another very, very interesting thing that would surface during this time. I wrote about a week before I went to Israel on Molly Gordon. Check out Molly Gordon. She's just fabulous. And check out Sherry Rosenthal. Fabulous women. Very, very powerful. And on Molly Gordon's page, these are very conscious people, and after the Gaza, I don't read newspapers, and I haven't had a television since 1984, but people talk, so you know what's going on. You know, after the whatever went on in Gaza, on these very conscious people were the usual diatribe about Israel, extreme this side or extreme that side, and, nothing in between. And I remember seeing that at about 2 a.m. I was exhausted. I had just been through something really difficult with my mother's health, and it just came out of my heart. I found myself writing, as somebody who's lived in Israel for 25 years, both worked and lived with Jews, Christians, Muslims, Israelis, Palestinians, really non-issue. It's really hard to read this, and I find myself, living in the U.S., not ever speaking about Israel because I don't find any ear listening. Because of these, this diatribe, one or the other. I said, well, what about those of us who don't identify with either? What about those of us, and I started naming, all the different kinds of people, and people who I know and have worked and lived with, and the 40,000 women who are walking across this country. They're, across the spectrum, across political spectrums, religious spectrums, just people who are taking, their lives into their own hands to live well and to make good with one another. And I was really moved to when I was watching the men. It's like, wow, most of the people were millennial age, but there were people, middle aged, my age, and wow, these kids, they've been in the army, and, those men have been in the reserves, and, my goodness, what they've seen. And look they're here. They're here, sitting 10 days in silence, making good. And wow, hi there. I love seeing those little bubbles. It's so impressive, really isn't the word. It's, awe-inspiring. And I wished I had a camera, but I couldn't have a camera. We had to turn, you'd like turn in your purse and your belongings and your phones and your books and your writing utensils, everything. I didn't turn in my journal, I admit. But I didn't open it during those days until the last day, until our vow of silence was broken. And then everything that I had experienced that I was hoping to remember just came flowing out of me within like 10 minutes, which taught me a big lesson. And this is what I really want to share with you in practical means, how like, what's the shortest distance and the quickest way to get to the essence of something and to get the answer to a question that you're pondering? It really is let go and leave it be and focus within and get real quiet and let the work do you. Breathe. Listen. And then when you're receptive enough, the answers come. Doesn't cost any money. Doesn't take any time, because the answer is right there. What takes the time is getting quiet enough and surrendering enough to really hear what your inner guidance is looking to teach you. That was really quite astounding. And you also have to be willing to and able to connect to the source of your power, to the source of your quiet. And if you find that a challenge, you can take a piece of healing music. You can download, I'd like to invite you at this point to download a very, very beautiful and powerful and peaceful healing music meditation at voicesofeden.com, which will connect you to the source of your silence. And it's actually recorded in Galilee the last time I was here. And you can listen to that. Just put it on. I recorded it. It's 3 minutes long, and the intent is that you could download it to any electronic device. And so when you find yourself disconnected or off balance, that you can just turn this on and rebalance. The other lesson learned, and I'm still learning them, and I believe that that's more important. It's not that there's more or less, but what I'm finding the most astounding are these lessons coming like back onto the grid. Oh my God. Amazing. Well, first was what worked really well is that I prepared myself for when we would break that silence. And that's very smart during the actual retreat, that they break the silence, that we speak between us, because you're like layer by layer preparing yourself to go back into the quote-unquote real world. Not that sitting in that auditorium is any less real, but I use the word real in the in the daily world, workaday world. So when we broke our silence, I really didn't feel like talking. It just was so nice to be quiet. But I decided that I would just respond, receive, and as people are talking to me, I'll respond to them. That was a big change for me. Because when you sit in silence, you start realizing your bullshit, your own bullshit between yourself and yourself. And one of those also is how good we are, how powerful we are. I was reminded of the beginning of my journey 30 years ago. God bless Lester Levinson and the Sedona method, which is a form of vipassana, of self-inquiry. So all of these years of practice and making that the priority is really a payoff, sitting there 10 days in silence. But responding to people is a whole nother level. Then coming back into the everyday world of Israel, oh, wow, I've been going to bureaucratic places, taking care of administrative stuff, and meeting with the means of communication here, which can be really in your face. And it's been real helpful to practice what I learned in that silence, was to pause. Really, when you get that in your face, pause. And remember, that equanimous mind, that equilibrium, that is who we are. And that this releasing of attachment and aversion to anything is pretty much a ticket to heaven. So with that right now, I'm going to leave us. It just feels funny. I feel like I'm talking to myself right now, like baka, 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 baka. And it's enough. And I'd be really interested to hear what your experience has been in quiet, or what your fear would be about sitting in quiet. And I've posted other photos and videos on my private page. Earlier, about 3 hours ago, I went to the hummus place down the street. It's so great. So spontaneously did a Facebook Live there, so you could go enjoy that. And I'm posting good wherever I find it. So please keep coming back, and please accept my gift of the free music meditation, and I look forward to being in touch. And go read the blog if you want to see photos, and there's a video on there too, like the first morning after, which was really quite beautiful. So, bye!